Hey there. I'm a little early because life, and I also had to start a new video. I had one scheduled and I was having a hard time getting it to go live. So hopefully this all works. Um, yeah, I'm like 5 minutes early. And well, since it looks like there is somebody here, if you could say hi. Yeah, so this live is for souffle, um, the souffle. More souffle, please make along. You can tell I'm like a little flustered being live. So, yeah, and I'm wearing my souffle in honor of it. And you might think, oh, hi, Kathy. She says hi from Michigan. Um, yeah, so you might think, oh my gosh, mohair, that must be hot in the summer. Except that I live in Oregon, and the part of Oregon I live in it's been so cool. Like, I am like waiting for summer to get here. It's currently 66 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is actually the perfect top. We have somebody from Central Illinois, Florida. Was just watching something else and popped on when I saw the announcement. Yeah, so I had some technical difficulties, and it's sort of been the kind of mantra of today. I was planning this kind of weird time to do the souffle kind of cast on party, make along, knit along party, like celebration today, because I was thinking I'd be home alone. But Matilda's here and she's 4, and so she's in her room playing, so we'll see if she ends up popping on the live or not. Oh, we have somebody from UK. Oh my gosh, what time is it there? It's like a 9-hour time difference from me. It must be quite late. Maybe like 11 o'clock at night or midnight or something. I don't know. Okay, so let's talk souffles. Just so you don't think this is going to be just so rambly. Oh, it's 11 p.m. Yeah, so a little. Hopefully you're in your jammies, relaxing. Okay, so I wanted to first do introductions and like explain the make along or knit along. I wanted to share quickly the 3 souffles that I've made. I say quickly in case you watch my podcast, maybe you've seen them and you've seen enough of them. I want to share my souffle plans and hear what your souffle plans are. And then I'd like to share some of my summer souffle yarn recommendations and hear what some of your yarn recommendations are as well. Oh my gosh, Laura's here. Oh my gosh, I hope you're feeling better. And yeah, oh, how exciting. I hope you're in your pajamas relaxing. Yeah, so I'm wearing my original souffle here that I really got to test knit for Laura, and it was actually the very first sweater test knit I ever participated in, and it really set the bar super high because I had the best experience. And so you might think like maybe that's why you want to just keep doing all the definitely her PJs feeling better. Oh, you might think, well, okay, maybe that's why you want to knit more souffles, but that's not it. I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, why is it that I want to make another one of these? And I'll show some of my other souffles. Like, why is it that I want to make like more of these? And for me, I think it's it is something that is very utilitarian and wearable, because like mom life, I've been home all day. There's like toys strewn around, and it's very wearable and comfortable. And like with the short sleeves, I can like wash my hands, do all the things, but also like it's very unique and feminine. And so I think that's one reason why I want more souffles. And I think the other reason is that, and I mentioned this in my podcast, so if you watch it, I'm sorry for I keep going on, but there's just like all these little details, like this applied eye cord, the folded hem. I just think like it's just those little details that make it like just feel really special. But because it's a wearable utilitarian garment, like you feel really special when you're, wearing something comfortable and usable. So that's one of the reasons why I'm like so excited about making like so many of them. Okay, so I'm going to share some of the details of the make along or knit along, and then as I'm talking, if there's any questions about the knit along, let me know. Okay, so the dates. It started yesterday, June 15th, and it goes until August 15th. And the reason why I did it for those dates is I actually go back to work with my fall semester for teaching starts on August 15th. So I was thinking it would be nice to just wrap up the knit along or make along then. I keep saying make along because I have a couple other things going on that are like crochet inclusive, and so I keep saying make along, but knit along, make along, same thing. The next thing is whips are allowed at any stage. I want this to be just fun and joyful. And so like there's not really like strong and fast rules other than you need to be knitting a souffle. So whips are allowed. And so even though whips are allowed, like why not cast on more? I love casting on all the things. So why not? And a couple things is for prizes, like there's 3 ways to enter, and one will be on Instagram with the hashtag More Soufflé Please. And then there are, I opened it up this morning in Ravelry. There's 2 threads, a chatter thread and a finished object thread. And if you don't use Ravelry, that's fine. You can just do it on Instagram, and that's great too. And last is there's a discount that Laura generously gave us, which is so nice. And for some reason on my Instagram, I thought it was More Soufflé Please, but some people have contacted me and it's just More Soufflé, just on Ravelry, and you can try one of those. But from people who've given me feedback, they've used a discount. They said More Soufflé worked as the code on Ravelry. Okay, so I've shared this souffle in mohair. Let me know if you're doing one like one of the original ones, and if you're doing mohair. And oh, we have somebody from Sweden. Is it midnight in Sweden, or is it? Oh, I'm wondering if they're the same time zone as the UK. I don't think so. Yeah, let me know if you're knitting an original one and if you're using mohair or like what you're using. If you're doing it short sleeved or long sleeved. I don't have yarn to cast on another original one, but I will be doing that at some point. It'd be really awesome if it was during this make along, because I do want to knit a long sleeve version. And the yarn I used was a mohair silk blend and hand dyed by an indie dyer that's out here in Oregon, Murray Wool Goods and Company. And the colorway was called Wine Tasting, which I think is really just perfect because you can see like the different shades of wine in there. And I think I knit the size 4. You can see I have quite a bit of positive ease, which I love. And it's super good for like mom day lives like today where I was super busy, momming. It's really comfortable. But I was thinking for like a more like a different look, perhaps. I was gonna say more elevated, but I can style this elevated as well. But I was thinking I would knit maybe a little bit more fitted one for my next one. But you'll see it's not what I have cast on next. So yeah, I'd love to know what you're casting on, if you're casting on an original one. Yes. I cannot believe this is happening.
Mama, come look at the icky goo. It's green. Come on.
The icky goo. This is okay. Remember? Okay. I don't know what to do. If I ignore this, it'll get bad. All right. So that was MJ. It was kind of good timing because this is the other souffle I was going to show, which is the Petite Souffle, and I made it out of DK wool superwash indie dyed yarn. And I have leftover skein. It's kind of blown out. The lighting's not the best here today. Sorry. Frankie Gray fibers. I have a whole extra one left. I actually thought about doing a summer souffle, which I know this is not a summer yarn, which I actually did that with the Anchors by Petite Knit. There's like a summer version of the anchors that's knit out of like a cotton wool blend. And I knit a fall version using a DK tweed. And so I was thinking you could do a similar thing with the summer soufflés. You could fall it up or winter it up with like an indie dyed yarn. Oh, always yarn first. I just want to knit the tank souffle. Yeah, I think that'll be coming out in like a year, and I'm here for it. Looks so cute. Yeah. So this is MJ's, and actually I had her pick out the button this morning, and she picked out this pink glitter one. I'd show you my button. I also have a pink glitter button. That's another thing I was thinking about this morning that's so cool is like, you know, all those buttons you collect, those, maybe you don't collect buttons, maybe you do, but there's like vintage buttons that you might have a jar of, and like you can just open those up and pick a special button and finally use it. Because sometimes when you buy a vintage button, you're like, what am I going to do this one button? But now you have a purpose right in the back. Elsa's gotta love the pink sparkly button. Yeah, and I have one too. Mine's more of a pale pink, and MJ's is a hot pink. Oh, Lindsay, I guess I knew your daughter knit, but she's making the original one. Do you know what color she's making? I'd love to know. Yeah, so this will be coming out eventually, and I mean, from what I can gather, those of us in the northern hemisphere, a lot of us are in really warm weather now, so there's not a huge rush for your children to have a sweater. Although I will say, out here, this is great that I have it. I went to the zoo yesterday with Matilda, and Oregonians were wearing puffy jackets and things. Like, it's been in the 50s and 60s out here. All right, my other souffle, this is not out yet either. Pretty sure it'll be out sometime this fall, and it's the Chunky Souffle. But I wanted to show it because the inspiration for my color choice here came from the original souffle. So a lot of testers did like a bright solid color. There's one that I showed, I think it's Knitting by Gem on Instagram. I put it in my stories. It's like this bright yellow like sunshine, and there was a couple testers that had like hot pink souffles. And so I loved my color choice here, and I'm glad I did it. But the whole time I was doing this, I was like wanting like a bright neon solid color. And so I think like I just showed this as like kind of for inspiration for what you could do for like the original souffle or even a summer souffle. And yeah, and I've actually gotten so much use out of this even early this spring, just because the weather here in Oregon has not been warm and sunny. A test call in March, hopefully. Oh, okay. That like for the tank top. Oh, well, I will be applying. I mean, that's the other thing too, is like, you know, whenever I do something, it can't just be part ways over the top. So now I'm like, every souffle design Laura will design, I am going to knit, so I can say I have knit all of her souffles. And yeah, and so, okay. So I thought I would share like my souffle plans. So if you follow me on Instagram, you might see that I did 2 swatches. So I have been in sort of like a yarn buying mode. I don't know how many, even the dodgy souffle bag, I'm here for it. Yep. That's so funny. I've been in kind of a yarn purchasing mode, which is great because I love supporting indie dyers and things like this. But I do have a really good stash. And so since I didn't test the summer souffle, it's like the one that's like outstanding for me to do still. I thought, okay, I'm going to use yarn for my stash. Like it was like a challenge to myself. And so I went through and I have it in a plastic bag. Sorry for the crinkling. And I found some options. And one is a budget-friendly option and one is a not budget-friendly option. Okay. So the budget-friendly option that would also work really well in this summer and early fall is this yarn in my stash. which is called Queensland Collection. And I've honestly never knit with it before. It's 55% lamb's wool, 45% cotton. I've had this in my stash for a long time. In fact, the local yarn store I bought it from is no longer open. I actually moved twice and closed, and I still haven't knit it. And the reason is I have a hesitation towards knitting with cotton. I don't know why, I just do, but I remember I wanted to use it. And so I'd purchased this, I think I knit a short sleeve sweater. Oh, there's some here from Portland near me. Well, assuming Portland, Oregon, I guess there's a Portland, Maine. I'm casting on the original with some white cumulus for my stash. That will be so beautiful, like this in white. Okay. So then the other DK I had in my stash is discontinued. The yarn company is still around, Shibui. I think they're actually out from this area where I am. And the yarn is 100% baby alpaca, which is what I think my hesitation for ever casting this on is I think I've heard people recommend that you shouldn't, and I feel like I've said this to people, that you should be careful with a baby alpaca or an alpaca only garment because it would stretch or grow. But I went on to Ravelry and people have knit garments out of this and it looks amazing. It's super soft and the drape on it would be amazing. Now, clearly baby alpaca would not be a summer souffle. This would be more of a fall winter souffle, but it's DK, so I could use the summer souffle pattern. And every summer I knit a holiday sweater for myself. Okay, who am I talking? I've done it 2 summers in a row, and now it's every summer, but anyway. So I was thinking this would be really beautiful. And as fate would have it, when I swatched, I actually got 2 different gauges on it. And what's just incredible is that the way Laura designed and wrote the pattern is there's 2 gauges for the summer souffle. So one of the gauges is a 20 stitch gauge. And obviously there's stitch gauge and row gauge. But for one of them, she offers a size for a stitch gauge of 20 stitches. And the other one, she also offers a 22. I have it flipped, but 20 and 22. But she has a 20 stitch and a 22 stitch in the pattern. And that's so incredible. I've knit so many sweaters and I've never seen that where a flexible gauge has been provided. And I was reading the pattern after purchasing it and I was just so excited about that. And then when I swatched, it turned out that one of my swatches, this one had the 22 stitch gauge, and then the other one had the 20 stitch gauge. And so even though I got 2 different stitch gauges, the pattern will work with this. And so, yeah, so I thought that's so exciting. And so I really love both of them. And then when I wet blocked it, I actually fell a little bit more in love with the wool cotton blend because it really bloomed. Of course, my lighting's horrible here, so you can't see that, but it really bloomed nicely. And I always did like this. And so anyway, I definitely would be happy with either of these. So I shared it on Instagram and had a vote, and it was a close vote. I think 300 people voted. And basically it was I don't know, it was something like 55 and 45 or something very close, but the blue won. So since I really like both, I decided to cast both on. And I not cast both on, I decided to cast the one on that won in the vote. And I think that was great because I think I probably would have picked the red because I just really have an avoidance for knitting with plant-based fibers. And I think one time I knit some swatches out of a linen wool blend and it hurt my hands. And ever since then I've been just sort of hesitant, but so just so tiny, wee little neck, but just I wanted to show you my progress. And I put a little Souffle Progress Keeper. And because, like I said, I don't do things part way. It's always like full in. And so I contacted Tiddly Bakes and asked for a custom order for Progress Keepers. And this is a cheese and leek souffle, and she also did a chocolate one. I think you can order these still on her website. It's Tiddly Bakes. It's an Etsy store, and they're made to order. And so I kind of was thinking maybe I should cast both souffles on like at the same time, because I do have 2 Progress Keepers. I was planning on casting on the original souffle, but I'm in the process of moving from France to Canada. That's a big move. And somehow ended up in Norway. I mean, I wouldn't mind ending up in Norway. Oh well, excellent excuse to buy some more yarn. Yep. That's a huge move. And I mean, I was like, yeah, I mean, maybe you could buy some yarn in Norway and then do some plain knitting. Elle says she can't wait for her stitch markers to come. Oh, and can't wait for the recipes. That's the other thing. I am just like a little bit of a hot mess. Matilla's in her room playing. On top of that, I was planning on like having the opening day, like baking a souffle, or like today baking a souffle with Kyle. I don't ever bake on my own. I do it with Kyle. But of course, like this is just maybe like the busiest week I've ever had, or season, month really, and I'm oversharing here, but Kyle's leaving this week, like in a couple of days, to go on a work trip to Europe, and he's going to Germany first, and so there just hasn't been time to bake. So I was thinking what I would do about the recipes, because I picked out 2 recipes, and that's the inspiration behind these, the chocolate souffle and the cheese and leek souffle. I was thinking what I would do is put the recipes on my Instagram in the stories and in the Ravelry group in the chatter, in both of those places. And I will update you later when Kyle gets back from his work trip in 2 weeks. I could bake on my own. It's just not, if I'm being honest, it's just not who I am though. Okay, so yeah, I just cast this on, and I'm not a huge magic loop person, but I just didn't have the right size needles for the ribbing. And so it's just such a tiny portion. You only knit the ribbing for 1 inch. So I will move on. You might think those are really tiny needles. That's me. I'm the loosest knitter. I have to, for nearly every designer, size down at least 2 needle sizes. So okay, so that's my plan, summer souffle, and I'm probably being overambitious, but I would really like to knit 2 souffles. I would like to knit a summer souffle, and then I told myself that if I used yarn from my stash and knit a summer souffle, that I could then buy some more mohair, maybe like an indie dyed one, or like, you know, for a second version of this. So, and you know, there's nothing wrong too. I was thinking about casting on a second souffle like the first day of school. Like I said, I go back August 15th, which is the last day of the make along or knit along, and I have lots of meetings that day, like tons of meetings, like almost like the entire day. That's how we kick off our beginning of the semester. And I was thinking, like, what better way than to bring my knitting to the meetings and just knit the whole day, help me enjoy the going back to school. Okay, so I thought I would share some other yarn recommendations. Of course, Laura in her pattern has yarn recommendations in the pattern, and you can go on Instagram and look through the hashtags for summer souffle, and you can also go on Ravelry and see yarn that the testers have used. So that's a really good way. But I thought I would just share yarn I was thinking about outside of my stash in case anybody is interested. So I did share this, which is still available. And I was at a local yarn store recently. I actually had it in a sale section too, but I had already had it, this Queensland. And this was quite affordable, and the quality seems really nice. I'm only a little bit in, but I've swatched and done the collar, and my hands aren't hurting or anything like that. No interest. I had no interest in knitting, but now I'm thinking I might. I will say this, and I'm digressing on yarn recommendations, so I'm just going to pause on that for a second. I have a friend, I'm not going to name her, but she was like, I don't want to knit it because it has a ruffle. And she said, I don't feel comfortable having a ruffle like on my large chest, was what she said to me. And I had two things I wanted to share publicly about that. One is that I think everybody looks good with this ruffle. Everybody. And if you don't believe me, you can go look on Instagram, and it is a very size inclusive pattern. Laura's super intentional about designing that way, and it's so beautiful, really, and like makes me kind of feel like misty eyed because it's just very body positive. And every tester I've seen that have tested the original souffle, the chunky souffle, looks gorgeous. So that's my first response to that. My second is that the ruffle itself is really not like over the top. Like it's just a few rows, really, right? Like it's not a huge, like massive ruffle, like I have shirts that have massive ruffles. This is not a massive ruffle. It's a dainty little feminine ruffle. And the third thing I wanted to say is if people are really like just not feeling the ruffle, even though the ruffle is like the iconic statement of the souffle, I was thinking about how you could really do this quite easily without a ruffle. And I'm not going to give anything away, but if you buy the pattern and you read through the pattern, you can see how easy it would be to omit the ruffle, and it would still be a really pretty sweater. Like, because this part is with one strand of mohair and it's sheer, and this part is two strands of mohair to make it like a little denser. And so I think it would still be a really beautiful garment, even if you wanted to modify it without the ruffle. So that's kind of my three things about. Yeah, I haven't had a lot of people say it. Most people are like, I'm making this thing. It's the best sweater ever. But I did have a friend in my life tell me she wasn't going to make it. And now I just call her on the internet. So I mean, it makes me a terrible friend. Yeah, Nikki says, I do like the ruffle. I'm not sure why I was not interested. Some people have a hesitation towards mohair, but if that's you can do a summer souffle. And also, like, you don't even have to do mohair for this. Like, you could substitute any kind of lace weight yarn and try it out. And okay, so I'm gonna go back to the summer souffle yarn recommendations. One brand that is a nice budget-friendly brand out here in the United States, at least. I don't know how accessible it is internationally. Oh, actually it is, because the two people that use it are not in the US. So that's Lion Brand, and they have a yarn called Kobu, which it has plant-based fibers in it, like cotton. I'm not sure if it's 100% cotton or what, and that's a nice budget-friendly yarn that is DK weight that you could use for a summer souffle. So I was thinking that would be really cool. I first saw it in some anchors last summer, and it was on my radar. So I thought about doing that. Yes, cotton bamboo. Oh, that makes sense. Kobu, cotton bamboo. It's a cotton bamboo blend. Yeah, hence Kobu. Thank you, Laura. Yeah, for a professor, sometimes I'm not. Yeah, so there we go. So I was thinking that would be so good for the summer souffle. And I thought about it, but then I was like, if I'm buying that, I might as well just use yarn for my stash. So I circled back around. And the other thing is, and this yarn is, I believe, recommended in Laura's pattern, and at the end is where the recommendations are, is Drops, a blend cotton wool blend. And I did look into that because I think it's called Wool Factory online. They were having a massive sale for it where it was like really marked down, and I don't know if they still are or not, and they have a lot of color selections, like quite the color selections. So I was thinking that would be really cool. And yeah, so those were some of the recommendations. Of course, you can do any indie dyed yarn too. And while you may not wear it in the heat of the summer, if you finish it in a month in July or August, like sometimes I like to knit things over the summer that I save up for the fall and the winter. It's really nice to pull out like a new sweater. So, yeah, so that is sort of my kind of recommendations that I was thinking about for the summer souffle. Is anybody knitting the summer souffle? I've seen quite a few people in here say they were knitting the original souffle. I'm probably gonna, if everybody's doing this, the original souffle, I'm probably gonna get some souffle envy because I do really want to do another original souffle. So anyway, I'm just wondering before I close out here, what you're making, if you want to share that, and also if there's any questions for me or for about the make along. Laura's on the chat if you want to ask a question. And I don't want to put her on the spot because it is bedtime by her. So Nikki says, with the Kobu yarn, would that replace the whole sweater and mohair, even where you hold it one strand of mohair? Or is the summer one the one you think is good? Okay, the Kobu is what I think would be good for the summer one. And that is because like one strand of mohair is like a lace weight and the Kobu is DK, and then 2 strands of mohair, which are 2 lace weights, make a fingering. So I do think the Kobu would be better for the summer souffle, which I don't have a sample of because that's the one that's on the needles, the summer souffle. Laura says fire away if you've got questions for her, and then I can read aloud her responses, and or you can read them yourselves. She goes, you could knit the original in one strand of DK throughout if you prefer the fit. That is true. And like, I think one of the things I was thinking about with like knitting recently is like, you really shouldn't say no to anything. Like, I was thinking about making a video about like gauge swatching and gauge. If you're test knitting, like you have to get gauge. Like you have to for the designer. Like that's your responsibility if you're test knitting. But if you're not test knitting, if you can do some math, you can really do anything you want with any yarn, assuming it gives you the fabric you like, and then you can pick your size after that too. Jody says, I'm doing an original in snow lang lace. Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. That is beautiful. But I'm busting to do the chunky souffle because it's winter where I'm at. Yeah. And I have the yarn ready, just waiting on the pattern release XO. Yeah, that'll be awesome. And I know in a way, like it's exciting to have anticipation towards a pattern release. That's how I was feeling about the summer souffle. Like I was just like waiting for it to come out. And, you know, that was fun for me. I honestly have never waited for a release for anything. And it was like, I mean, for yarn relating, like I really, for a pattern release, like I've been knitting my whole life, but I've always been just sort of like, oh, there's this pattern, I'll knit it, this pattern. I just recently like became aware of like the test knitting culture and like, you know, really I've only been active on like the knitting Knitstagram for a couple of years. And yeah, and so it was my first time like waiting for a release for the summer souffle pattern. And it kind of brought back some nostalgia of like when I was like waiting for like books to come out, like Harry Potter and like things like that. I was like just excited, just so excited for the pattern to come out. So yeah, planning to release it September 1st, so hopefully hit for fall or spring for everyone in the Northern Hemisphere. Yeah. Yes is, waiting is hard, but good. I'm a fan of delayed gratification. Yeah. And yeah, so fun. All right. Well, do we have any other questions before I say goodbye? Well, I'm always so nervous to get on a YouTube live because I always am nervous, like maybe no one will come, maybe no one will say anything, but you came here, so thank you so much. It just made my day, and yeah, and just the highlight of my day here. So thank you so much. And oh, Laura says, thank you for hosting Cal. I'm totally honored. Like, honestly, like, I feel the same way, Laura, about you. Like, not to cheese ball, but every time, like, I've gotten to test, I've just, like, I actually, when I got the email that I got to test this, it was my very first sweater I ever got to test. I actually physically cried. And it was like, I don't remember what was happening that day, but it was just like one of those days where I was like feeling like a little bit down. And I actually cried tears of joy. And so, yeah, thank you. And I missed the beginning. When does a Cal start and end? Yeah, it started yesterday and it ends August 15th. Whips are allowed. All the details are on my Instagram, and I have a Ravelry group, Professor Pearl podcast. And after I end this stream, I will have it saved on my YouTube channel. What's unfortunate is I was really awkward in the beginning because I was nervous because I had to start a different stream. I don't have childcare today, so I was feeling nervous, but thanks for showing up and dealing with my awkward. And anyway, happy souffle knitting. Oh, before we go, I should mention this. The first Tuesday of every month, I do a Zoom knit night for my scrappy sweater make along. I also have going on in this channel. It's a very long, extended make along. But a lot of people in that group who've made scrappy sweaters already, like doing better than me. They actually like finish their scrappy sweaters. They are also doing the souffle. So I thought, why not just kind of like make it open for anybody knitting a souffle that the time zone time works out. So we do it the first Tuesday of every month. 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, and if you're in the UK, like, you should not be up. I think that would probably be like 1 a.m. your time. So anyway, thank you so much. And yeah, feel free to DM me on Instagram and chat souffles with me and chat with everybody in Ravelry. Anyway, thanks so much for joining. Bye.